And we should be live.
Hello, darling people. Good morning, and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, Anne, and disembodied voice, Justin, and my boyfriend, David, who is currently residing in the office, but probably working and probably will not, interject random paint comments into the discussion. Probably. Maybe. Otherwise, here we are on Tuesday. Tuesday. You can say Tuesday really, menacingly. You can't say Wednesday very menacingly, I don't think. Thursday, I think, is a pretty menacing day. Thursday. Yes, we can be serious about Thursday. You're having a good day. Knock on wood. Yay, mead!
Is that because of the relative menacingness of Odin and Thor and, who's Tues again?
I don't know. I don't know who was Tuesday. I don't remember. I didn't really, worship any of those, Norse gods, so. Just say the day of the week in German, easy to sound menacing. I see no Medziques, so we just have to go Germanic if we really want every day to sound menacing. For real. For real. Yeah, we're here. We're here. We're here. Yeah, for real this time is the fact that I, put the Duelist up yesterday, and then I talked about color theory and never got much paint on her. So we are going to actually do the Duelist today. Although I think I'm going to highlight this color differently than David is on his. I was joking that we had inadvertently picked a color scheme. That was the color scheme on his dragon from yesterday. Da, da, da. Yeah, everybody seemed to enjoy me babbling about color theory for an hour, so we'll just run with that. Run with it. Run with it. And the legend, Motor City Ray, the other legend. You are also legendary, Motor City Ray. We are all legendary in our own ways. Hey, Daniel Paints. Hello, everybody. I'm glad you did. Yeah, everybody seemed to come back and tell me afterward that it was a great lesson. So it actually was great, too, because it got me to realize the main problem behind getting people to grok color theory and using the color wheel, which is that people have trouble looking at a color on the color wheel and thinking about which colors in their actual collection are allied with that color. So there may be a point where Anne has time and may do a super awesome... Actually, this would be a great special offer for the Patreon to do a breakdown of the main lines of MSP and essentially put them into color wheel slots. And maybe organize them by saturation as well. And maybe a light and dark rating. Do a complete color key, of Master Series Paint, or at least try. I think I might be able to do the Bones line without too much trouble. Doing all 500 colors is probably going to take some time, so I may have to do multiple PDFs. because it has to be workable, right? It has to be like there has to be a way you can easily reference it. So I don't think I want to do one PDF for all colors. I think I would want to do reds, or I'd want to do the bones line. I think it'd be more useful to do an entire line, like do the bones line and then do like, or maybe do the first 54, the first half of the bones line, and then do like the first 54 in core and the second 54 in core and things like that. Hello, hello. Oh, hey. Geralt! I approve of your name already. Let's see here. Super educational. Mimicking colors you see others using. Sometimes, Crawly Hamster. Sometimes. Like, if somebody's got a really good color scheme, but I'm a lot more likely to see something in nature or see something in my general environment and go, oh, that's a great scheme. Like, there's a ton of, like, Japanese maples and awesome flowers, weird flowers and plants around here, and so when I take my walk in the evening, often I will, like, see a succulent or see a bush or see a variegated leaf and go, oh, that'd be a great combo, So I'm personally am more likely to see things in my everyday that suggest color schemes rather than looking at color schemes of other painters. In fact, my natural inclination is to go away from a color scheme I see somebody else using. So yeah. So yeah, I really feel like Miss Imp. I really feel like well, perfect organization is going to vary by the painter. But if you can organize by hue, I think that is very helpful. But yes, good morning, Francis. Cooler wheel. Yeah, well, the one, I don't have my color theory book in this room, but the I forget which color system it is that I was most enamored of. There's a color system out there that I think is the best, and it does that. It sorts every color into lightness and darkness, and then saturation level. And I think that and then hue by hue, and I think that's really the best type of system to have. It's the most useful to you, the painter, especially when I say things that you want to keep things in generally the same saturation area. You can push the boundaries, but you'll have a lot more color harmony when you're starting out if you don't push those boundaries quite as much. What?
Oh, I think we had a brief drop in either Restream or internet.
Okay, I did not see any problem, so not on my end, anyway. I'm not getting any.
It could have just been on my end, yeah.
We're going to play around with colors today, guys. We're going to use peacock green, but we're actually going to add some tropical blue to it and highlight it up with tropical blue. I want to do something fun. She doesn't have much cloth, so I don't know that it's going to show up that great. This is my quandary with this model, and we kind of talked about it a little bit yesterday, is that she is mostly metal, or if you painted her armor leather, she is mostly leather. So she actually doesn't have a lot of extra area. Come here. But I do want to get some color on her today, so we'll get her focused in. I started kind of blocking in some peacock green on the pants yesterday. I did decide that I wanted the pants and the cloth in general to be darker. As you can see, I have blocked it in quite dark, in black, actually. I undercoated the boots and the cloth in black. And you can see why if you look at the way that we're setting up our colors. And you can also see that I'm going light with the hair because I've left it light. But everything that's light, I want to be lighter, and everything that is dark, I want to be darker because we're alternating, you see, so that we get our bright steel NMM next to a dark, next to a bright, then we've got kind of a middle with this belt, but the belt is also extremely warm, so it's going to stand out just fine. But we've got these pops of light and dark, and we're sectioning the mini off. If I had gone with kind of a middle color, in between here, in between these NMM plates, then it would be harder to make it stand out, or a light color, because the NMM comes up so light and it also has that strong gray midtone. Whereas if you go dark, you can see the amount of contrast that you get moving from one area to the next. And then the other way of contrast is, of course, doing warm and cool. The armor is very cool because we've introduced some blue into it. And then I've got this very warm, ruddy leather for the belt. So we're going to go cool again down here for the cloth to kind of split things out. And I want these boots to be black, shiny patent leather because I think she's just super fancy and super, super clean. She dressed up this morning. This is her dress-up armor, her formal armor, if you will. So yeah, just twitchy. Okay, frozen on the Apple TV and kept streaming on your phone. Yeah, okay. Well, so it's one of those things. It's the internets. It's just the internets. Well, we've been supposedly in danger of rolling power blackouts in California here, but only later in the day, so only after 3 p.m. Ceremonial armor. It looks functional to me, but it looks like it's fancy functional. She's a high-end, like duelist for some fancy noble family. All right, so we're going to do peacock green. Now, the problem with peacock green over black is that it takes a while to bring it up because it's a transparent color. It has decent coverage, but it also, by its very nature, being a blue-green, it will not have awesome solid coverage. It's just the way it is with those pigments. When you're dealing with phthalo blues, it's hard to get high coverage. But I'm somewhat mitigating that by taking like 5 drops of peacock and throwing a drop of tropical in there. Tropical's got white in it, and it's going to help us layer that up. She woke up today and decided to go to the party. But yeah, so we're just gonna do. I'm gonna try to do a color scheme. Actually, I'm gonna use the peacock green because you guys suggested it yesterday, and I showed you that it works really well with like orange and yellow, for example. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna do that color scheme. It's kind of one that I was already considering for this figure anyway, so you've inspired me to go forward with it. Is it Armor Laundry Day? Yes, for other... Oh, hey, Ghost. Thanks for the sub. Thanks for the resub. I need glasses. There we go. Granny glasses online. Now we're serious. Eek. Well, okay. Granny glasses are very smudged after I put them down this morning, apparently. Let us unsmudge them. Yes. Alrighty. It is actually, Val, the most obnoxious color that I ever mixed. It is the one color, and through, 15 years at least of mixing, and that color being in existence for about 14 or 15 years, it is the hardest color to hit that we make at Reaper, in my opinion. Because of the way we make it, it takes a huge load of pigment to shift it, because we start out with a colored base that's very, very saturated and very full of pigment, which makes it very difficult to get it exactly to the level we need it, to get it green enough. It's hard to get it green enough. So yeah, it actually was my least favorite color to make when I was at Reaper. I hated making 9226. But hey, now I don't make the paint anymore, so I can just make Sadie make it. Evil laughter. But yeah, so now Sadie has the trouble of getting this darn thing to match. She always had better luck with it than I did anyway. I think every paint department person is probably going to come across the one color that they have the most trouble with, and it probably is different between us. Like, maybe Sadie just has a sense of how much yellow to add and, to counteract the heavy front load of blue and all of that. But peacock green is very, it's a very difficult color for me to match. But I like it. I mean, it's a beautiful saturated dark. So, yeah, sorry, 9226. And Nomad Zeke, thank you for the resub. Ooh, 1 year anniversary there, Nomad. 9226. Doo-doo-doo. That horrible, awesome color. That's the color we're dealing with. The color that we are currently layering over all of our dark cloth here. And I'm actually putting it on a little thicker, although I thinned it a tiny bit because I always like it to come off the brush. But I am dabbing it on pretty thick here because I know it's going to have trouble building up over this black. And I'm trying to counteract that out the gate. And then, of course, we've got the problem of these little bands of lighter color that I haven't yet highlighted on the sleeves. That we'll have to bring up. But first, I just want to get this color down, so I've decided to just paint my peacock straight over those little bands of color. I can always do what I did here and come back with white to outline them before I start going orange-yellow with them. Although I tell you, going with this peacock color, I am now tempted to take her hair red instead of blonde, as I was originally going to do. Maybe I should compromise and go strawberry blonde. Yeah, each has their own color nemesis. It's true. Hey, Marabe, how's it going? Hey, Scapio. Good morning. Guten Morgen. Bon matin. Buenos dias. Those are the 3 good mornings I know. What's good morning in Japanese? Anybody know? I guess I can't hear you guys pronounce it, so I guess it doesn't matter. I should add that good morning to my good morning list. Oh, wow. Thanks for gifting that gifted sub, Skelsey. And Scott Beal now has a gifted sub. That's fantastic. Alrighty. So yeah, I'm putting this first coat on thick because I want it to show. As I highlight it, it'll become more apparent. Oh, we've got little laces there to deal with too. I wonder what color those little laces on the inside of the arm should be. I've done them in black so that they'll show up against the armor. I'll have to see what makes sense. Sometimes when you've got lots of alternating layers, and on these Talon sculpts, on these sculpts that are based on Talon's artwork, you tend to have a lot of alternating layers of cloth and armor and other cloth and everything. So sometimes you just gotta go slow and block in the things you know the color of, and then see what makes sense for little accent things like laces. Good morning. Konnichiwa. Oh. Oh yeah, konnichiwa. Okay, I'll try to remember that, Francis. Or Scrying Eye has me, but oheo gozaimasu? Gozaimasu? Oheo gozaimasu? Wow, that's a... Oh, hi. It's the hey. It's the hi. Ohio. Okay. I guess that makes sense. Everybody shortened it to the HAI then. Nobody says the whole thing anymore. Just like we tend to say morning. I like that long one though. That Ohio gozaimasu. Ohio hey. Hey, not hi, right? It's hey like make hay. Correct me on pronunciation, guys.
Every time I go to read like a Japanese word or a Japanese like sentence that way, and I almost always, and I don't know why that is. Probably because of all the anime I've watched, but I jump right into anime voice.
Oh no! Dragon Ball Z Justin.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I can't just say it normally, and I don't know. It's something I gotta
Ohio
work on.
gozaimasu. Ohio gozaimasu. Okay, cool. I liked foreign languages, guys, and I always wanted to learn a ton of them, and that's unfortunately one of my life goals that got kind of shunted off to the side with learning all this other stuff. But I still really want to pick up my foreign languages. I know they always say that you can't do it as well as you get older, but I'm not sure I buy that. Like, I'm sure you do it better if you're educated when you're a small child. I'm sure you internalize it better, but part of me still wants to learn, like, a decent part of Japanese and brush up on my French and, you know, that kind of thing. So that's why I asked these questions. It's because I've always had an interest in it. The only thing that kept me from taking Japanese in college was the vast credit load that it required. Oh, that's right. We've got our white sticky tack here, and it's really impinging on... and we've got the white cape. That's all kind of shoving the color a little bit dark on the rest of her hair. The cape will not stay white. I just haven't decided if I really want it to be yellow yet or not. I may have to make it like blue-green but with a yellow border or something. Just because I'm not sure I want the whole thing yellow. Ohio gozaimasu. Ohio gozaimasu. That's going to be really hard for me to remember, but I can remember Ohio. 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 Not Ohio, but Ohio. Got it. Thank you, everybody. Russian is Dobraya Utra. Like that. I knew a guy who majored in Russian and Russian history back in college. He was always making up nonsensical phrases in Russian and applying them to common day objects. He was a very amusing person. Ohio Nukra. You always drop it down to a Toshiro Mifune and growl. Ooh, stripes. Yeah, I mean, these stripes are sculpted. Unlike the last stripes I did, which I freehanded. These stripes are actually on the model, so anybody can paint them. All right, so I think we've got some green blocked in there, that nice dark green. And as you can see, because I'm putting it over black primer, you're really not getting a sense of the real color. Like, it's really quite emerald, but you don't see that because it's over the black primer. And this is a good example of how putting dark colors over black primer just really, like, drops them another level into shadow. You have to really build them up, or build up a couple layers of them for these transparents to really translate. And if you want them to translate a lot better, just start over white primer, because you're going to get a lot better of the sense of the color. See the difference? So this is like the case between black and white primer, really, is, you know, black makes it very easy for you to shade because it's naturally going to drop, especially any transparent paints, obviously, into the down a level, but it also is much harder to build up true vibrant colors over black, as you can see, unless you underpaint in white after you do your base coats. Oh, you have a minor in Russian. Awesome. That makes sense that you'd pick up some Japanese along with martial arts, especially for the philosophy angle of Dragon Eye. Alrighty, so let's put this baby down and mix up a highlight. Let's do 50-50. I'm going to do 50-50 Peacock and Tropical and see what I get. Peacock is really strong, so I don't know that this will work, but we'll just do 3 drops of each. That way we have room to do more. I can paint plaid, and I have painted plaid. I figured that after doing freehand on this one, like, I get cred for stripes no matter what they are. You guys all also have seen me do stripes before on that model. Let's see here. So Kiri may have a Kiri emergency today, just so you all know. She was not quite emptied out this morning, much as I tried. Therefore, if the little dog has to run out, just be prepared for me to put the Be Right Back sign up. Alright, so this makes a very interesting, pretty teal. Hi, Kier! Do you need pettins? Alright, there's some pettins. There's the happy dog face. As long as I'm getting the happy dog face. Good girl. That's my happy dog voice. Alrighty. So this color, this is half and half. Yeah, it's looking dark because of the white in there. But this is half and half with the blue and peacock. So this is tropical blue, which actually is one of my favorite highlighting colors these days. Weirdly, for dark colors, tropical. 9419. It's an odd one, but I like it. All right, so now we're much more teal. We need a Kiri emote. We're actually going to get a Kiri emote on my personal stream. 2 of them, if I get my way. We're going to get a happy Kiri face and an oh no Kiri face for the Kiri emergencies. So yeah, mix. If you like this, you're probably going to like it even more in person, because the camera is definitely darkening the color down in the palette. But this 50-50 mix of peacock green and tropical blue essentially takes it very much into a teal territory. It's no longer a green, because peacock is definitely still a green. It's a very blue green. But let's see if I can highlight. Actually, yeah, let's paint that over so you guys can maybe see it. So it's more like that. So what I've done is, since tropical blue has white in it, and I know that, I'm utilizing that actually. I want to shift toward teal more than toward the green, and I want to get out of there. There we go. There we go. And I want it to be a more opaque, so I'm highlighting it up so it actually shows up. So the white in tropical helps with that, and I still get to introduce that extra load of blue to make it more of a teal. So that is my thought process. You can see how the highlight came up there. I'm going to switch brushes to something small, though. I'm actually going to use the Kiro brush that David tossed at me. Tiny brush. This is as tiny a brush as you will ever see me use. It's a Kiro brush, so it's from Russia, but you could get something equivalent with, I have a Da Vinci Maestro Series 10 triple aught. I think that's about the same. Yeah, it's about the same. Well, let's use the triple aught then, since that's actually, I guess you can order the same brushes Kirill uses from Russia, but a lot of people probably won't have them, so I'll use the Da Vinci. I may need that. Now, when you're using a brush that's this small and this thin, you've got to thin your paint more, or your color is just not going to come off. So I'm going to drop a couple drops of my mixture, my water, water and flow improver mix in this case because it is such a tiny brush. So I want that extra surface tension break. I don't always do that, but often I will for that reason. Let's mix this up. Where's my crappy mixing brush? Looking for crappy mixing brush. This will work. I really need to just go out to Hobby Lobby and pick up a couple of crappy tackle-ons for mixing. I might have one somewhere in my stash of canvas brushes. Alrighty. So now since I've added water, I did take down the opacity of this color. So it's not going to cover as well, but it is going to come off my tiny little brush pretty well. And I'm going to just highlight the areas that are kind of sticking out more so they would catch the light a little more. So now with that one highlight, you can see the difference coming up already. So now we're getting a bit more color down here. We're starting to see the color. Just checking on the chat to see if anybody has any questions. Boom, boom. But I wanted to go cool with this because I went warm with the leather. Also, the fact that I used ruddy leather has a lot of red in it, so going with a greenish color makes the complementary work. Even if I am not going with a straight up green, even though I'm going with a very bluish green, there's some orange in this ruddy leather too, so that works just fine. It's almost a perfect complement. Once again, the sleeve here has a lot of, has these little white edges or detailing, but I'm going to ignore it at first. I'm still going to ignore it. I'm pretty much down here on the hand. Everything is so close together that I'm going to ignore all of that detailing until the very end. So let me get this in focus. I want it in focus. There we go. All right. Because if I tried to put those little yellow struts in or white struts right now, I'd have to highlight all between them and around them. I'd rather just highlight the entire area green and then go back and hit the details. Make sure that I've blocked out all this black as well. Up here it's a little harder because mostly the area that's sticking out is those little details, those little stripes. But I can get in a little bit of my teal in there. I'm probably not going to be able to highlight up very much here, but we'll see. Just because it's kind of crowded. You get in. That's the problem with sculpted detail, is that it easily crowds an area. That's why I almost prefer just doing the freehand, because on a flat area it's so much easier to get this to look right. Let's see here. I want to switch around so that my hand is in a comfortable position to do this. Alrighty. Many young people do not have that skill. The skill of knowing when to be tactful to not burn bridges. I see this on Twitch all the time. Alrighty, let's see here. Now this sleeve. That's coming. I like that color on this model. And it's not a common color since I've custom mixed it, so obviously it's not a common color. But most often on this sort of mini, you see primary colors. And I thought I would like to do something other than that. Let's see, gotta get that hand. I'll probably bring this up one more highlight, maybe two. I mean, you should always highlight your dark colors. You should just minimize the area your highlights take up if you're trying to keep it dark. So as I continue to highlight this dark teal, I'm going to make my highlights much smaller. So it's still going to look dark, but it's still going to have highlights. A lot of people make this, do this with red, like dark red on like Undead. They just don't highlight it, or they highlight it very minimally. And it's like, you can take a dark red up as high as you want. The key is to keep your highlights small. And so it always looks unfinished to me. And then when I ask them, you know, hey, you should put some highlights on this red. Oh, but I want it to be a dark red. Well, you can keep it a dark red. You can still highlight it. So that's one of the things to examine in your own painting is, you know, how much area you take up with highlights. Some painters are very habitual about the amount of area they take up with highlights and shadows, like it's a part of their style. For instance, if you look at Jennifer Haley's early work, she had very broad highlights, which led to her work looking a bit pastel, which people really liked because it was a very unusual look for the time. Then her style has evolved and changed over the years, just like most of us, but how much you like to highlight and shade is definitely part of your painter style when you start to develop one. I think you start to develop a style after you have all of your tools in your toolbox. And then it's a function of like which tools you reach for most often. So like I think it's very hard to develop a style before you like learn how to layer, for example. But you don't necessarily need to blend. Yeah, tact is pretty rare these days, isn't it? Daffodil, that's funny. That's very funny. I think you have to kind of focus. I just want to focus at this point, Francis. I'd like to learn a couple of extras. Like when I want to travel to a foreign country, I'm likely to try to pick up a fair amount of that language, just basic phrases. I think it's just, I mean, I know a lot of places in Europe you don't even have to these days because they speak English. A lot of them speak English, but I just think it's courtesy. Russian is 24 years ago. Yeah, self-study. Well, but self-study can be even more effective than school learning, I find, because if you're trying to do it with self, at least you have your own motivation to do it, right? Instead of having to take it or study it because it's a class. And also these days, you know, you're not distracted by all the rest of having 18 credits worth of other classes or 15 or 12 or whatever. All right, that's a little bit higher. I think I want to put in those light stripes now. You know, you'd think so, Mathophile, but actually I find that you've got to at least have the techniques in your toolbox. I mean, you're not going to really have a style. Well, I mean, it's hard because so much of style is like color choice and lighting, and a lot of times painters don't really mature. Like, I didn't really have a style per se until I was a quite fairly high level painter. And then I looked at my stuff one day on the table and realized that I had developed a style. So in a way, you're right. I mean, I guess, you know, as you're developing your abilities, you might come to a certain type of highlighting placement or something like that. There's certain colors that you like and don't like. But remember, over time, all of this shifts. So the style that you display when you get to a certain level of painter, I think, has evolved from a previous style. But I don't know that your earlier style is like, it may have things very out of common with your earlier style. It probably depends on the person. I mean, usually, I find that painters developing their style happens after you've painted a lot. And over the course of that painting, a lot of those fundamentals of your style could shift and settle into new paradigms. It really depends. It depends on, too, if you're trying consciously to develop a style from the beginning. Like, if you're conscious of the fact that you want to kind of shape your style, right? I need walnuts. There it is. I want to, before I outline these guys in white, I want to make sure that they're painted over in black or near black, so I'm using walnut. The reason is that then each of these little lines will be somewhat outlined. You can kind of see the dark line around in there. That's going to make them pop out even more, and I want to make sure that I've got that crisp delineation on each part of this. So yeah, I mean, people these days, there are some painters who are at the intermediate level who really are eager to develop a certain style. And I would say, yeah, then in that case, like if you love David's work, for example, with his dramatic lighting and, you know, very, he's got a definite way that he lays down the paint to get a beautiful fall of light on the model. So if you set out as an intermediate painter to learn that and study that, then yes, that's going to definitely be an integral part of your eventual style when when your style settles in a little bit. Because our styles do settle in, and then we have to kind of try to switch them up. You get in a rut as an advanced painter, just like you get in a rut as an RB painter or any other kind of painter. Well, that's because you are taking a ton. And that's what I think most painters do, Dogfather. I think most painters are probably in your situation. And I think that's why a lot of people don't develop the style till later. Because we have so much information now on the internet and so many different painters teaching classes. And it's awesome because it catapults you up a lot faster with your techniques. But it's also, when it comes to like settling into what you want to do, it can be difficult, right? Because you've got so many choices and there's so much stuff, and oh my gosh, this painter does it this way and that painter does it that way, you know? And so I think it sometimes takes a while, especially if you're still kind of struggling at that intermediate level. Like if you haven't yet had the light bulb and you're still trying to get better, I think it can be very bewildering, just the way so many different people do so many things differently, right? So you almost at that point want to step back and think about how you integrally enjoy painting. Like, do you enjoy, like with David, if David tried to paint the way that I do, where I'm blocking in various areas, I'm finishing them up, and this would drive him nuts. And likewise, to paint like he does, which is just jump into the model, throw paint on it, David's a lot more wopple in his intro stages. Like, he just throws paint on everything and lights everything up, and does a lot of just like really choppy, not really even blending, just blocking. And if I try to do that, it's alien to my thought process. It's so difficult for me. I enjoy it, but, you know, I didn't enjoy it in the early stages. And so my initial, the old Anne style, which is this, albeit evolved a little bit with the NMM, is very precise. Like my style is very precise and controlled because that's what I enjoy doing. But David does not enjoy this style of painting. And so he enjoys just jumping in and getting everything covered, blocked in, especially the light blocked in. And so because he enjoys it, that's an integral part of his style. So what you might do, Dogfather, then, is step back and out of all the classes and stuff you've taken, you know, paint some things and ask yourself, what am I enjoying the most? What approach am I enjoying the most? And that's probably a good sign as to what you should then focus on. That way that'll unmuddle you. Right, Nomad Zeke. See, and you might want to also step back and say, well, why are you beating your head against the wall? Like, what technique exactly is, hey, Achilles Blade, is getting you that? Because it's worth analyzing it, because you want to enjoy your hobby. And if you want to be able to paint those character models to a slightly higher standard than your tabletop so they look good, then it's worth stepping back and saying, well, maybe I need to approach it from a different direction from the first, you know? And then you should be able to isolate like a particular technique that maybe is giving you trouble. Like, when do you start beating your head against the wall? Yeah. Well, thank you, Mighty Garrett. Yes, if you don't like what you're doing, it is hard to improve. You got to step back and figure out, what am I beating my head against the wall? And then maybe find a way around it, or find a different way to do it. Oh, good. I'm glad. Yeah, I've changed a fair amount of what I do, but not the basics, Mighty Garrett. Like, I still layer more or less like that. Sometimes I'm approaching the model a bit differently. I'm going to throw more water in that. Want my walnut. The nice thing about walnut, and I've mentioned this before, is that it's so high coverage that you can thin it down to get really thin lines and still have them be pretty dark. Brown liner is made to be a bit more versatile with its translucency so that you can get a more naturalistic effect. But when I'm working on 28ths and I just want that dark line, then I'm definitely happy with walnut, because I want that dark line, but I want thinner paint that'll give me that dark line. I've improved light years. You know why? It's because I push myself. I mean, I'd have to go back and look at my old painting style, but yeah, I mean, a lot of the ways I've improved are through, like, the classes that I took. Like, my NMM improved miles after I took Sergio's class. And that's weird, because NMM was, like, a very small part of Sergio's workshop. But I essentially went and took pictures of his models and studied the heck out of them until I figured out what he was doing and the system for it. Hey, Planner, how's it going? Well, yeah, Army, that's the only plus for Army painting, right? Mathophile, is it's efficient. I mean, and you probably would enjoy spending time on a model and making it look, like, much better on average, because you get that happy, contented feeling when you've got a unit that looks good, right, on the table. Absolutely. I mean, I've got that with my Eldar. Yeah, but getting to that point is hard. Hey, Kiri, what's up? You gonna settle? You gonna settle? Can I pet your nose? Hi. Hi, face. What's up? Were you just worried because David's out there in a meeting? Yeah. Don't worry, he'll come back. Shepherd must have pack. Must herd household. Hard to herd through a door. Can you settle? She's like, but I don't want to settle. I want to be like the cat that gets to go in and out. Good girl. Alrighty. Well, okay, I don't think that... Sergio's going to hate me for this, but I don't think that he explains the NMM that well. A lot of what he does is kind of instinctual artistic, I think. Like, the placement of light and shadows to him is natural, but it's not necessarily natural to the American audience. Because we've grown up doing things with a different attitude. So, for the NMM, I really... Like I said, I took some pictures of his models. I made sure that I felt like my example that I was painting in his class, which I showed yesterday. I worked on the NMM on that until I could see the fundamentals that I had noticed in his work. And in that way, Dogfather, I was able to, like, say, okay, well, at least I have the fundamentals here on this model that I painted in his class. I can now refer back to this and to my photos of his things. And then from there, I was able to get to the point where now it's almost instinctual. But yeah, Sergio is, he's a very good teacher on some subjects. And I think we all have weaknesses as painters, as instructors. Like, there's some subjects that we're really good at explaining and maybe others that are harder. And usually that's just because it's a more difficult subject. Color choices. Then you were here yesterday, weren't you, Mighty Garrett? Like, seriously. I went so deep into the color theory, I'm amazed we ever crawled out. Yeah, well, maybe try painting in smaller groups then, Mathophile. And if it doesn't seem complete, then maybe it's just, take them up another level. Yeah, contrast can make it look better. Yeah, and I mean, that can work, Mathophile. But it can also be frustrating, so just be careful that you're not frustrating yourself. And, make yourself back up sometimes. I mean, because otherwise you're kind of losing, I think, the advantage of now. The advantage of this era of mini painting is that you have so many people who are willing to teach, and they're all amazing. And so, although being self-taught or, making yourself jump ahead is very tempting and can be very edifying and can give you good results, it can also be really frustrating. So just make sure that you're not making yourself really frustrated. Because that can definitely impair your learning. And the point is that you want to get better. So it can also waste a lot of time. And I always find that time is at a premium these days anyway. Yeah, there is a little tiny little strand. I had to tilt it into the light so I could see this particular little yellow, or soon to be yellow, band. And so you see what I'm doing. I'm outlining all these little bands. I'm just painting them over first with walnut. So that will give me that'll give me this dramatic light versus dark when I go over them again with white, just to go with them a little bit less. The areas you find easiest to do are hardest to teach. Yes, and that's why it took me about several years, Valendar. And the reason is that you don't examine those too closely because you've never had to. Color to me is instinctual. So when I was asked to teach color theory for the first time, I remember being in the grocery store talking to my mom about this because my mom's also artsy. And she's like, color theory would be the hardest thing to teach. And I'm like, yeah, but so we have to break it down. I have to go back at it as if I'm a noob and try to explain it from an incredibly fundamental level. So that it was the hardest to teach. And that's why I had to spend extra time on it. And I think that's true. And I think that maybe the instructors that fail a little bit more are the people who have never gone back to consider their favorite topic from a basic beginner level. What is the easiest way can I break this down? What are the basic steps of this, the fundamental parts of this? It's hard for people sometimes to go back and try to break down their own styles when they've gotten very far ahead. I like teaching beginner and basic painters to level up, and so for me now it's a challenge where if I have an extremely difficult topic, it's a challenge for me to go and say, okay, how can I break this down? How can I teach this to make it accessible and simple so that it's the most important thing is getting people to believe they can learn it, right? That's really where it's at. So you've gotta break it down. NMM is a conceptual thing, and it takes a while to click. It took a while for me to click in my head, Dogfather. Like, I had to do a lot of thinking and looking at metal objects before I started really figuring out NMM. Yes, it is a rabbit hole because it's my favorite topic, Val. Sorry that you're dizzy. Actually, thank you, Cadejos. It's actually, that's funny because this style is one I got from Sergio. We were just talking about Sergio Calvo Rubio and how I took his class and how it leveled up my NMM, even though he didn't spend much time on it. But I spent a lot of time looking at his stuff and figuring out what he did. So the breastplate and the sword and getting just better on my NMM in general was a large part of that class, even though it was a really small part of the class. But yeah. Time is your biggest challenge to improvement. Yeah. Try to give yourself a recharge period, Dogfather, and don't fall into the trap of just because you're tired at 6 or 7, don't assume you're going to be tired all night because our bodies have natural rhythms and usually people have a little bit of a refresh after dinner. So try to maybe instead of like if you've got a habit of sitting down and playing computer games after supper or sitting down and doing, watching TV after supper or whatever, try to like use that little bit of energy that you get back from relaxing and eating supper to sit down and paint for half an hour. You can get better immensely with just 20-minute sessions at painting as long as you just pay attention to what you're doing. Like figure out what your latest challenge is and use that 20 minutes to really work on it. Because I get that too. I get that very tired later in the day. I'm a morning person for sure. But I do get kind of a rebound between like 6:30 and 8:30 where I've got decent energy again. And that's my most productive evening painting time. Once it gets past 9, I'm like starting to go downhill. It's like turning into a pumpkin at 10 p.m. Maybe. It does, I mean, I agree on a point. To a point. I guess, especially if you're taught by a skilled teacher, you might learn it and then internalize it. And after you've internalized it, not really know how you got there, Mattheviles. So that's valid. I don't know. I think it depends, though. Like, I go into everything now. Every subject that I try to pick up or try to get better at, subconsciously I find myself analyzing, how would I teach this? Because it's just like, I guess I'm just an instructor. I guess like after all that time in like high school and college of insisting to my mother that I did not want to teach, I actually lied. Like now it's all I do. The minute I learn something, I want to teach it, and I start figuring out how to teach it. But I'm a weirdo, so so I think I'm the wacko there, who isn't just. I'm never just learning in a vacuum. I am always looking at it. In Kirill's class, in Sergio's class, didn't matter. I want to understand this so I can break it down for somebody else. Yeah, the cat. Well, and that's habit. That's habitual, right? Maybe lock him outside in another room, like so you can't hear him howling. Or Nomad Zeke. The great thing, depending on if you live alone. If you live alone, noise blocking headphones are a wonderful thing. I have a set from Bose, and I love them, the noise cancellation ones. So then I don't care. Oh, that's cool, to make a little playpen for your cat or play area for your cat, Dragon Eye, to distract your cat so he can be with you, but without being too... Because you could probably cat-proof most of the hobby room and then leave one area where he's allowed to play, only he doesn't know you've set him up that way. Oh, yeah, give your cat his own chair. That's a good idea. Oh, yeah, the Maggot Crown. I actually worked on him, Cadejos. I worked on him back at the beginning of this, back of, gosh, a year and a half. How long have we been doing this, Justin? 2 years? A year and a half? I don't remember. But I like that model a lot. I think I have him over in my pro tips box. Maybe I'll take him out and actually, I used him to demo a few different things, so he's painted very inconsistently. But by the way, example of how dark of a line and how thin of a line you can get if you use walnut for your lining, guys. You can thin the paint down until it gets a very, very, you can draw a very thin line with it, but the line is still very dark. Well, if it's, yeah, I don't know then, Nomad. I mean, the best thing you can do then is probably to try the cat playpen idea. Like, cat-proof most of your room, figure out the kind of stuff he loves to do, and then just give him that in one spot so that he settles down. Yeah, it is a really cool sculpt. It's fun to paint, too, because all the details really crisp. Crisp and blocky can be fun to paint, because it's fairly simple. I think I used him on a very early video for showing like rust and corrosion effects, and we did some true metallics, I think, on him. All right, let's see here. I need to get these dark stripes going on here. I'm getting too distracted by chat. Yeah, I used to do that with mine sometimes, Nomad. He wasn't totally annoying, but if you got him catnip, then he would just eventually kind of settle down. It made him frisky for a short period of time, but then he'd chill. I mean, the biggest thing, and I mean, there's always going to be something that distracts you, right? There's always going to be a distraction. It's going to be the cat, or it's going to be the kids, or it's going to be, you know, all the other things I've got to do, or right now, you know, this is really annoying that my roommate does, or whatever, right? The key, though, is not to let yourself be a victim of those things. It is to actually proactively figure out how you can minimize those things, or get around them, what you might have to change up to do that, and then move forward with your hobby. I mean, put another way, if you really want to paint, you will find a way. So now I've got those dark stripes there, and it's really, you can see how big they are against that teal. Well, that's good. But yeah, I mean, so apply yourself. Since you have applied yourself to other problems in the past, I am sure, with success, apply yourself to the problem of the annoying cat. I do like the kitty playpen idea. I like the whole, like, you know, give your cat an area that he can be bad in, that won't bother you, but that he doesn't necessarily understand he's being allowed to be bad in. Trick the cat. Alright, I gotta get those stripes on the hand, which are very small. And aren't as clear because the fabric is so, Yeah, bracing helps. Like, bracing and then, exercises. Brush control exercises, Val. Because, drawing a straight line, these little straight lines, this is muscle memory. And muscle memory can overcome shakes. So what you're trying to do when you're painting, if you want to develop muscle memory, is you're trying to keep your hand always at kind of the same angle. Like, you notice I'm moving the model a lot, and I'm doing the same stroke with my brush. That's key one. Try doing that, and you should build muscle memory faster, and your shaking should get more controllable. And then balancing your hands together, in a painting position so that you're bracing them against each other, so that minimizes any shake. So I know people with brain lesions who manage to overcome most of their shaking, or much of their shaking, with just cultivating muscle memory. So it is not impossible. You can improve even if you cannot totally overcome. I'm just lining around it. Since I have my lining color open, it makes sense to line around that hand. Introduce that shadow. Yeah, coffee shakes. Well, I mean, there's an easy answer to that, is to cut back slowly on your caffeine. I know that sounds like heresy, but I myself have been forced to do that because of the way it acts on my stomach. So I can tell you that it's just fine. I never got headaches because I dialed back from coffee to black tea. And then I dialed back from black tea to like oolong or a black-green mix. And that's where I'm at now, and my stomach seems to be fine with it, so. If you really, really, really get frustrated, I can't tell if that's all one finger. Sometimes the casting is just like, is that all the finger, or is that partially the sword, or is that a casting artifact? I don't know, I can't tell. Where is my tan skin? There it is. Stay. Sit. Stay. Guys, when you've got health issues that involve the digestive tract, you learn that, people's caffeine crutches, including yours, are surmountable. You can howl at me all you want, but if you're going to blame your shakes on caffeine, my suggestion is going to be to dial your caffeine back. Substitute some other awesome drink that you still enjoy, which is, you may just be drinking it because it's a stress reliever or to make yourself feel good. You may not need that much caffeine. Yes, you can yell at me all you want, but having done it, I can speak for it. And I also was extremely dismayed that I could no longer have coffee. And when I have backslid, I have regretted it, so.
Kind of comes down to that old saying about, what is it, like, finding excuses instead of finding solutions?
Yep, that's actually just what I was, I wasn't using those words, but that's what I was talking about earlier with the cat.
Yeah.
It's like,
People don't often like to hear that, because it's quick to take offense to it, but at the end of the day,
At the end of the day, yeah, when you've got to do it. See, I had to be forced into it. Like I said, I had to actually have digestive issues that made caffeine an irritant on my system. And I was forced to stop drinking coffee. So, or at least if I wanted to be happy digestively and not have health issues, I had to stop drinking coffee. So, I have been at the coffee addicted stage. I have had way too many lattes a day in the past, and I understand the tastiness of it, and I understand that it makes you feel better to have it. But I also understand that I didn't need it. If your painting is awesome when you have a bunch of caffeine in you, then you're fine. I just had to mix up some skin color to try to fix this. I think it does have her finger extended there, but I'm into the finger holder. So essentially I have to line around that and make that look right. Yeah, Mathophile, I had to back off because when I got diagnosed with my Crohn's, you have to actually make an effort, right, to figure out what it is that's causing your flares if you want to be out of flare city and you don't want to be in the middle of flares. So I did find that alcohol and caffeine were two obvious triggers for me having bad digestive stuff going on. So those are obvious. There are definitely more obvious ones that you can drop out of your diet and see if you feel better. Because caffeine definitely is an irritant to the digestive system, and alcohol also is. So those were easy ones to kind of trial. And the other one, I only figured out the tomato problem that I had because I was drinking a lot of V8. So when I removed the V8, it went away. So I realized that, at least with tomatoes, that form of acidity was very bad for me. It can be harder if it's something you have like here and there, or if you have like several things that you're eating that are causing issues. So good luck to you if you try to figure it out. It is frustrating and often annoying because you have to lower down your food intake to like a very limited range to figure that stuff out usually. All right, so I've got that now. See, they got that hand with that finger over there. Luckily, I always thought tomatoes were a little bit gross. I mean, it was sad not to be able to have pizza, Val. But, I mean, since then, I've just substituted pesto, and I found that I can use a very small amount of sun-dried tomatoes if I must, but I try to find other substitutes. And since I went gluten-free and I was doing so much of my own cooking anyway, I found tomato substitutes to give me that, the tanginess in stuff like stews and things. So now I'm quite happily without tomatoes. I joke to David that he's getting his morning breakfast poison when he gets his avocado toast with tomatoes on it. So since I've got my walnut out, I'm just trying to block in some of the shadows back here behind this cross guard. This is definitely a molding thing where there's this big empty area here behind the hilt, but I'm just going to block it in dark. When you've got something like this where there's this big gap that doesn't seem like it would actually make sense on a sword. Like the hilts here are very thick, and so you've got that big, thick, you can see it on this side. See that big empty space right in here? Right behind this front decorative plate? That's not something that would necessarily be on any sword. It's just because it needs to cast correctly, right? So what you do is you do what I did on this side, and you block it in all dark, and it just disappears then. When you're looking at the model from the front, you don't even notice it. You don't even notice that the area there is really thick because I put a really dark shadow in it. I'll probably carry that shadow somewhat down the side of the blade into this cloth. And then that whole area just disappears, and all you see are the pretty areas. So when you've got something like that, where it's a big chunk of like blank metal or plastic that's behind something that's obviously there because it's bulking out something to make it cast better, or it's just filling in things like the underside of the cape here, paint it dark. That's what you do. I like avocado toast, but I like, okay, if I have gluten-free bread, I can like avocado toast, but yeah, it is really hard to identify digestive problems. Yeah, they are, but then bean mince, there can be so much else going on. Like there's so little we know, right, about the gut biome and all that. I have even me, and I've managed to, I mean, I'm gluten-free. I'm almost dairy-free. I'm, low carb, no alcohol, minimal caffeine. I still love eating, by the way. All of these words are not like doom. You just have to learn to cook. So I still can make awesome, tasty food. In fact, David is mostly on my diet, except when he makes his own breakfast and usually his own lunch. But for dinner, David is completely on my diet because I'm the one who controls the cooking. Yeah, you got it. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Bean mince can be a real pain in the butt, right? Yeah. And even now, there are still times when my guts will get a little bit more upset, and I'll be like, well, what triggered that? Yeah, that's a really healthy diet. Well, it caused me to lose quite a bit of weight too, Mighty Garrett. I dropped about 60 pounds over the course of 2 years. And I've gained a little bit back since I've been out here. My chocolate habit has not gone away. It needs to go away a little bit more. But yeah, I'm pretty stable at this weight now, and I debate trying to lose the 10 pounds again to get back down to where I was. I kind of am getting in the mood now. It's so nice. The weather's so nice out here for walking that exercise is definitely pleasurable in the evening. Much better than Texas being 104 degrees.
We love our boiling hot temperatures here. Thank you.
Well, actually, it got the other day here in Mountain View. It got up to 102, and I was so happy. And David thought I was nuts. Yeah, that can be hard, Mathavel. Like, yeah, because like I said, David can eat stuff that I can't eat, but it helps that like we do breakfast separately usually. Because I just do a muffin that I make that's gluten-free and low carb, and he does his own breakfast. We generally split for lunch, although we'll share like guacamole or whatever. But then, yeah, he just makes the effort then for dinner to be cool with my diet. And that's the meal we eat together, that we cook together. So that helps a bit. Yeah, it's only 10 pounds up from where, I mean, dropping the 60 was the real thing, Chibi. And honestly, that was keto. That was the ketogenic diet. And then I switched when I came out here because I wanted to share meals with David and get a little bit more variety in there. I switched to low carb instead of keto. So I probably have about 50, 60 grams of carbs a day. Maybe on days I get up to 80 grams of carbs. But once you drop like gluten, wheat flour, all that stuff out, you don't really have a problem keeping low carb. I mean, I eat a lot of vegetables too. A lot of eat a salad for lunch and all that stuff. I'm actually dangerously close to a vegetarian diet now too. just been the way I eat. So.
Yeah, no, don't do that.
Don't do that. Well, I'm
the only other person I know that puts care and into making ribeyes like I do.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. I do love it, but I've cut it down to where I'm not eating nearly as much meat. Like I never eat meat for lunch anymore. I don't eat any meat for breakfast. So it's like I only eat meat for dinner, and even then I try to do a smaller portion. I am throwing a lot more seafood in the mix. I'll tell you that, Justin. Steak is down to like maybe once every 2 weeks, I want to say.
That's about where I'm at. I used to have it more, but no, I don't even. Actually, it's been a month since I had a ribeye at this point.
Oh, yeah.
With you there. I'm eating a lot more seafood lately.
Yeah, well, that's healthy for you. That's good. Omega-3s, yay.
It's also because it's only within the last year that I was able to eat shellfish again. So.
Yeah. Oh, 113 high today. Yuck. It's it's rough, Chibi, when you first start it, but there are definitely like once you learn low carb baking, like once I learned how to bake with almond flour. Oh no, a blorf. Don't worry, it's a very, very thinned down blorf. It won't affect it. There. Once I learned to bake with almond flour, I was perfectly happy on keto because then I could I use erythritol and almond flour, and I can make cookies that taste really good that are low carb. So it's part of making any of those restrictive diets work, I think, is enjoying cooking or baking or just like finding a few recipes that are key. Otherwise, keto is because I like avocados and I like stuff like that. It was easier. Ketogenic diet, yes. Yeah, I go with grass-fed. I try to buy sustainable farmed stuff. It's more expensive, but it also encourages me not to eat as much of it. It's like if I'm buying slightly more expensive cuts that are produced more sustainably, then at least I'm just not eating it as much. But yeah, there's so much, like there's just some bad farming practices out there. I'm with you, Mathfile. Yeah, avocados. Well, if you love avocados, you're probably gonna like you could probably do the ketogenic diet. Like olive oil and avocados, healthy fats. It's a high fat diet. It's a low carb, high fat diet with moderate protein. I was on it for 2 years and just was great with it. I constantly think about going back to it, although then I'd have to switch up some stuff, make stuff just for David for supper. Yeah, I actually, well, beware, Chibi. I also found out very recently that I had a milk allergy as a child as well, which explains why, even after I outgrew it, I really didn't like milk. And I was still having reactions to lots of dairy. Like, I can't have, like, a scoop of ice cream without really getting some digestive issues. So I didn't even know that that was a thing until my father told me, "Oh yeah, you were allergic to milk as a baby." And I'm like, "And you went all this time knowing I had digestive issues, not telling me this?" Thanks, Dad. So, you know, just be aware that even if they grow out of it, they may still have issues later. Like, I've been happier since I dropped. I went to like goat dairy. Like, I use feta cheese now, or manchego, or pecorino instead of parm. You know, stuff like that. I try to swap out that stuff as much as I can. Yeah. Woohoo. Oh, yeah. Cows existing. Cows exist. It's true. Yeah, pecorino. Yeah, alcohol is one I react to too, Valandar. Alrighty, let's get some of these white lines blocked in. I may have thinned this too much. We'll see. We'll see. You always think you thin white too much, and then you put it on, you're like, oh my god, that's strong. I have a pet allergy, but I just deal with it. I acclimate to my own animals, so. Yeah, no sugar, no grain. Yeah, I use subs. I kind of like Bob's Red Mill Paleo Flour Mix. It's got a few more starches in it, but it's like tapioca starch, but it uses coconut flour and almond flour. So it's still, you could still use it. I use a mixture of that with regular almond flour. Alrighty, let's see here. We need to do the white on these little sleeve things. Sleeve things! And then maybe do a last highlight. Okay, so using the side of my brush, and I'm using a tiny brush, which means I'm using, what? Thinner paint, right? So we don't want that to dry on our little brush, and we want it to come off the brush nicely. But we're going, because these are sculpted on, we can just use the side of our brush to gently get these painted in. This allows us to be precise. And since we painted the entire thing, including the sides, in the walnut, by just putting the white over the top, we've got a nice outlined detail. Oh, no, Blorf. I'm just blorfing today. It's like, what the heck, Blorfy Day? Tuesday is Blorf Day. Who knew? Yep, edge highlights. Kind of. I mean, it's an edge because it's a tiny little, like, it's only an edge. Like, with these little piping things, it's like they are an edge. That's what they are. Blorf, blorf, blorf. Thank you all for the blorfs. Yeah, I'm blorfing a lot today. I don't know what it is. My brush is excitable or something. Happily, we still have our base coat and our highlight color mixed up, so I can just come in and touch it up easily. Brussels sprouts, parsnips. Yeah, might have to. Hey, Orchrist, thanks for the raid. Incoming raid. Hi. Yeah, we're working on. We've been talking a lot about food today, because that seems to happen on Anstream. But otherwise, we've been doing the piping on these little sleeves. They've got tiny little pipings down that I'd like to make a different color, and so I was outlining the whole the whole thing with walnut brown, which is really dark, and then I'm using the side of a tiny brush to bring it up to white, so that when I put I want to do them kind of orange or yellow, since that's a light color. I'm doing this white underpainting so that the yellow orange shows up well, and I can hit the detail. So yeah, we're doing stuff. I need to remember to rate on my stream. I've been forgetting lately. Oh, speaking of which, guys, I should be streaming this afternoon. I have to go. It's a grocery store run day, so hopefully I'll get back in time to do something. Uh-oh, I think we have a Q emergency. Oh, yeah, we do. Okay, Justin, it's going to be a little bit... We might want to just cut it early today. Although we just got rated. Yeah, it's already 10 after. But... All right. Well, I've got to run. You guys, thank you. I should be on today, like 3:30 or 4... No, 4:30 p.m. Central. But anyway, I'll see you guys later. Bye.
All right, guys. We're going to be rating Jimmy the Brush. Thank you guys very much for coming out. You guys are awesome, as always. Keep being awesome. No, there is no. Actually, that's a great time to announce this. There will not be a Clever Crow this afternoon. Proctor had some work stuff come up, and he could not do the show today. So I'm gonna take that opportunity to finish a bunch of ReaperCon stuff, do some testing, things like that, and I will see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning. But otherwise, check out Anne's show this afternoon on her channel, which is twitch.tv/paintingbig. Outside of that, say hi to Jimmy for us. Spread the Reaper love. Keep being awesome, and just be you guys. See you later.